This is my first video. This is comparing the Mikuni 26-28 millimeter carb that comes stock on a Yamaha Blaster versus this new OKO 30 millimeter. So let's look at the Mikuni first that comes with the Blaster. Obviously I said the Torz has been removed, so that's why I don't have that big box on top, but that's the main difference in these two carbs, is the slide on this one is round. I don't have the needle in there, but the needle would be coming out of that hole right there. You can see down in the carb where that idle stop has been installed right there. That's that brass piece. I can get it right there, that guy. So cool that that's installed, and that I think came from Vito's. Real easy to drill and tap, came with all the stuff. That little flat blade right there, that's going to be your air screw on this carb. So pay attention to the inlet side here. That's where I've seen the biggest difference, and that's probably where you get the most power. Is you see how it's got this very harsh lip here. If you look at the OKO 30 mil, see how tapered it is? So you get added velocity. Now I've heard bad things about these chrome slides, but I'll talk about that in a minute. This slide's just aluminum. You can see it's worn out. Not really, it's still usable, but the paint or whatever has come off of it. The needle, actually, like I said, you pull this out, needle fits down inside there. Pull that brass piece out, needle's down. Now there's only one way to go in. You gotta make sure this groove here lines up with that, and it'll slide straight down. The needle, if you have the needle in what you need it in, will fit down through the, take your 4 screws loose, here, 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 and here. Whatever, I get mixed up. This just pulls straight off. Now I've already taken the main jet and the pilot jet, but the main jet would be here holding this in place. So it's not moving around. The pilot jet's actually in this hole. Round floats on this one, and I will say that's different on the two carbs, where your gas is going to come in. It's going to be on the opposite side. It's here on the OKO. It's there on the Mikuni. But here's what the main jet looks like. It's a little tiny hex. It goes in here. This is the Blaster pilot jet. It's a tiny little guy. I don't know if you can see that. It's super tiny. And it drops down this hole. And a small flat blade. Just screw it in. So that's a 32.5, and I was running a 250 main, but it's been ported and it's got a pipe on it and everything like that. But those are yours, and then just make sure your little cover guy goes back on. But that's it. The float ball on this is real easy to put on. Just drop straight down. Make sure the wider part is right here. Wider, narrower. So that's the Mikuni. Now this is supposedly an upgrade. I haven't put it on the bike, so we don't know yet, but I have noticed why it probably is. This taper, like I said, is a lot smoother. It's not that sharp lip like the Mikuni. There's only there's screws that hold the top on versus that threaded top on the Mikuni. Only 2 screws on the bottom. Here's the jets, just because I just showed you the Blaster jets. The Keihin looks similar. It's a hex, 6 millimeter hex, just like the Mikuni is, but the OKO or Keihin, whichever one, is longer. I think it uses Keihin jets anyway. And here's the pilot jets, much longer, but tiny little hole. Now the biggest difference, like I was saying earlier, is the slide on this OKO. And you want to hold it on because it's spring loaded. It's going to pop off on you. Cap, spring, gasket. That actually slides down into where the slide. Now it's a D slide carburetor. D. So D slide carb. It's chrome plated. I've heard this chrome peels, but I haven't used it yet, and I'll just keep an eye on it. Somebody thought that the actual carb peels. Nothing peels on the carb. This is just cast. There's nothing to peel here, so don't worry about that peeling. But pay attention to your slide. I'm sure you could replace it with a regular Keihin slide. So this is a crappy scooter needle. It's an N80 F, I think. I might be wrong. But this is, I think, a 1mm tip. So we'll have to play with that. The needles are a little bit funnier to tune than your pilot jet and your main jet. But it's only one way this goes down. When it's together properly, you'll see it from the back. You'll see a little bit of the spring like this, and that actually holds the needle in place. Obviously, it just installs just like the there's only one way, just like the Mikuni, but so you want to make sure your needle lines up, and then bang, there you go. Now put the top back on. Don't forget your gasket, 2 screws. Now this carb bowl is kind of funny. You can't just pull it straight off. You make sure your carb's upside down so the bowl's up. If you're doing this with a carb that's been used, obviously you're going to get gas draining out. You need to drain it first. But what you do is you pull up just slightly and then rotate a little bit towards you. Now what that's allowing is for that little brass rod to clear the float there. So when you put it back on, conversely, you're going to have the carb upside down. You're going to kind of feed that brass tube, and then once you'll feel it kind of slide in, and then you can rotate it back down. If you pull it straight up, it's gonna bind up on something in there. I think it's the float. But there's the floats. They're a little bit different. They're round, but they have more of a square shape than the Mikuni stock ones, and they're actually larger too. 2 things about this carb. You have 2 pilot holes. You can't see the one in here yet, but the one pilot hole, this is your main pilot hole. I guess this is the one that's most active at idle, that one right there. You have another second stage one that's just in front of the main jet and where your needle comes out right there. But main jet on the Keihin, or OKO in this case, just threads right in there. It's 6mm. You want to snug it down before you use the carb. I'm going to be taking these back out before I ever put it on the bike. These are not the correct size for a blaster. They are too small, which is one thing you need to note when you order this carb. If you order this carb and you do a eBay cheap order, it's going to come with crappy parts, a scooter needle and tiny little jets that you're going to want to swap out pretty quickly. So be gentle when you thread things in a carb, because it's just aluminum and you will strip it out. Just want to snug them up. Yep, like I said, there's your jet, your main, your pilot. There is no cover or plastic slide. I'm sure you could pull this brass part off, but we're not going to mess with that. Now, upside down. Okay, your needle, the little brass part, always is on this side of the carb. Your fat side right here, just like that. Will fit right back down. Now you have the jets installed on this, and the needle and everything's ready to go. Here's your idle adjustment on the screw. That's something I didn't mention. That was what I was installed on this Mikuni, is the idle adjustment. It comes on this carb, because you don't, this one didn't come with an oil port either that you would have to block off. If you have oil injection on your bike, you could drill and tap this out and run your oil injection to there, gas to here, float tool. But here's your Mikuni. I'm not sure the model, but it's 26mm, I guess, on some bikes. I actually measured the throat. It's more like 27 something. This one is odd. It's 27, almost 28mm left to right, but it is 30 up to down. So it's nice to have a caliper and check that. But there's your OKO 30 and your stock blaster 26 or 28. Technically, like I said, it's a 27, but one reason people like these is you can see there, you don't have to modify your intake side of the bike. Because it's shorter, you probably want to run a plate. That's going to be my idea. I don't run this currently because it does kind of eat up your top end a little bit, especially if it's installed between the engine and the reeds. So yeah, just to add the width. But I'll do another video about jetting, and we'll play with the needle. I'm going to change this N80F and the jets out again. So one good tool to get is one of these guys, because you can always check your measurements here. So you can see right here, you can check the actual diameter of this carb. This is the OKO, and you're at 28, 28, 29, something right there, 28, 22, something like that. But like I said, if I rotate and do this way, we almost get to that 30 mark right there. Yeah, so here's the Blaster carb, or the Mikuni carb. And 27. See, it's almost the same as the OKO that way, but then when you measure this way, this is a lot more. It's only 27, so it's almost more of a taller carb, if you will, and you can see it's much thinner. It's a lighter weight. Even with the carb bowl off, this is still heavier. This is kind of worn out, but these are some good mods you can do if you don't want to spend the money on the new OKO. Get this, take your tours off, get the cap, install your idle stop, and you'll be good to go. Obviously, jet it out. Proper jetting is the most important thing to get your two-stroke to run good. Air or your pilot jets down here. The pilot jet circuit is the one that's actually adjusted by your air screw. So just think, when you're turning this in or out, you're affecting how much gas this pilot jet is feeding to the actual opening. I showed you the one on the OKO. The one on the Blaster is actually right up against the slide there, so you can see that. But yeah, as you turn it, one way it richens it, one way it leans it. I think it's out, it's going to allow more air, which is going to lean it out. In is going to allow less air, which is going to richen that circuit, so you get more gas through it. Now, if you get to a certain point, you have it all the way in, your bike's still sounding too lean, you need to go up in pilot, or if it won't start, something like that. Conversely, if it's just bogging, you're getting sludge coming out of your exhaust at idle, it's running real rich, you need to lean up that pilot, depending on what you do to the bike. But the stock works fairly good in this with most mods. Mainly, you're just going to be changing this out, and possibly your needle clip. Your needle clip just is fine tuning of this main circuit here. Basically, think of your slide needle as being your air screw per se for the main jet. But at full throttle, they're all functioning. Your pilot is open, your main is open, so they all function together at the end. So a lot of people think your pilot only affects your idle. It affects your wide open too. So just remember that when you're jetting your carb. So Mikuni. Okay. Yep. Here's your idle stop. Always start at the richest, or your fastest idle will be the easiest to start the machine on. If you've never installed a carb, always have this turned in. Never turn anything real tight with a wrench or something real hard on a carb, because you'll strip it out real fast. But here's your air screw. You're going to turn it same as the Mikuni. In is going to give you less air through the circuit, and here's the opening for that. So you can imagine the air is coming in this way. This screw is actually turning a rod inside there. I don't know if you could see it back in there. And as you turn it out, you're letting more air in, which is leaning up that circuit. Or if you turn it in, you're going to not allow as much air through, because that's tapered, and you're going to have more gas going to your motor through that jet. That's going to richen your idle speed or pilot. So as there, then you can turn your idle speed down to where you want it. Once you get your pilot jet air screw adjusted properly, you're going to listen for a real steady, fast idle at the fastest point on your fastest setting. You're probably good. If you can't get it, always go richer. If it just doesn't want to idle and you've gone rich, try lean, but always go richer first. But yeah, there are your two carbs. Like I said, if you have oil injection, you're going to have to drill this off. It's blocked off on this Blaster carb right there with this vacuum needle here, or vacuum cap. But there you go. That's two carbs. Like I said, I'll do another one when we're jetting them out. Cool. Thanks.